Hi, I've just made a video regarding the Kavanaugh-Khashoggi situations that Trump has now drawn parallels between regarding, people being judged innocent before being, people being judged guilty before being assumed innocent. That apparently is everybody's right. And as I've more or less explained in that video, that there are levels of presumption of innocence in terms of if there's enough evidence on the table, then there's enough to support the probability that a person may be lawfully suspected of committing a crime and thereafter stand trial, where the evidence will be heard in a court of law and given consideration as to whether this person is guilty or innocent. Hence, the very serious crimes, the accused are sometimes incarcerated before they even go to trial, because the evidence against them is so powerful that there's reasonable doubt that this person really is innocent, you see. So that's the situation of the law. I've left the link to that video underneath this video. Please do watch it. Now, according to the information that I've shared in that video about the law and balance of probabilities and reasonable doubt, then the same now applies to the people of Palestine and Gaza. Okay? Now, here is a BBC video. I'll leave you the link to it. We know that the BBC have traditionally taken the side of Israel just by the very fact that they've always strived, according to them, to show non-biased news reporting. But the very fact that they've refused to acknowledge actual criminal activities committed by Israel against the Palestinian people, including criminal judgments against people purely on their native ethnicity and faith, okay, which, I'm sorry, you can't be unbiased against criminals. That's ridiculous. Okay, if people are, as a group, committing crimes against another actually innocent group purely on the strength of their ethnicity and faith, then their criminal actions, that's a criminal judgment against those people. It isn't lawful. And the BBC have consistently behaved actually in an unlawful manner in the very fact that they've refused to show themselves to be biased on side of the law, or against criminals, you see. So let's get that clear. But regardless of my opinions of the news presentation of the BBC, as I say, I'll leave you the link to this. And we're talking about serious violence being committed against the people of Palestine, and most particularly Gaza. Now, bearing in mind the judgments that we've recently witnessed in favour of actual lawful suspects, Kavanaugh, and lawful suspects, the Saudi regime, in terms of the brutal murder and dismemberment, allegedly, of Mr. Khashoggi. And again, my condolences and sympathies to Mr. Khashoggi's family, especially to his fiancée, and also my empathy and again respect for your courage, Dr. Blasey Ford, who I know that Dr. Blasey Ford remains under attack, in hiding, and her life is at risk. So, we are talking about very, very serious, a very serious situation, global situation that we're now living under in terms of an approach to the law and the kind of judgments that are emanating from this actually criminal ruling global elite, who all support each other, and as I've explained in the other video, all support Luciferian law of might equals right to do as thy will, okay, as opposed to universal law of right equals might to do as thy will. So, as I say, watch that video. Now, according to the judgments presently, like I say, in favour of Kavanaugh, in favour of the Saudi elite, as Trump has issued, he's drawn the direct parallels between the two, okay, as I've shared in the other video, you know, he's saying that, well, I'm afraid we have to assume that the Saudis are innocent, just as I have to assume that Kavanaugh is innocent, okay? Well, as usual, you know, these judgments are hypocritical, aren't they? When we look at the level of judgment that comes into play from people like Donald Trump in terms of what Israel is doing in Palestine. Because if we go back to 2014, where 3 Israeli teenagers were kidnapped and terrorised and shot, and that, you know, again, my heart and sympathy goes out to the families and friends of those Israeli teenagers. That is an absolutely terrible thing that happened. I in no way condone it. But the fact is that that happened, and really we don't have any solid evidence that's been brought to the table to prove conclusively that the people who committed that terrible crime against 3 Israeli teenagers actually came from Gaza or anywhere in Palestine. We have no evidence to prove that. And yet, people like the BBC, people like British Parliament, even the Obama administration of the time, were prepared to accept that, yes, Israel has a perfect right to judge all the people of Gaza as being complicit and to punish all the people of Gaza for this crime that was committed against 3 Israeli citizens. That's with no evidence, okay, that even these criminals that did that came from Gaza, but nonetheless they saw fit, Israeli soldiers, to start terrorising the citizens of Gaza, invading their homes, arresting people, maiming people, even killing people, all on the strength of, we believe that the people that murdered these Israeli teenagers came from Gaza. That you, members, a group from your town, Gaza, that's where these criminals came from. No evidence whatsoever. There's no innocent before being proven guilty there, is there? And yet, on the strength of presumption, how many people in Gaza were killed? How many babies killed and injured? How many children suffered? How many homes laid to ruin? On the strength of a presumption, an assumption. We also have the general Israeli judgments, and you know, this again is from actually a female Israeli government minister who at the time stated that the mothers of the criminals, of Palestinian terrorists as she calls them, should be shot to stop them from breeding more little snakes. And this was after she judged all the children of Palestine as little snakes. Okay? All of them would be terrorists. And really, you know, we need to kill the women, the mothers, the families. And we heard exactly that same rhetoric being expressed in 2016 by Trump supporters. That yes, actually, yes, we should kill the families of terrorists as well. You know, not in any sense of the word is that a just kind of a law, is it? Where a criminal, people have committed crimes for whatever reason, and therefore, because of that, you're going to go to their families, you're going to kill them as well. You're going to kill all the children, you're going to kill the uncles, the aunties, the mum, the dad, the cousins, you're going to kill the whole family. You're going to assume that they're all complicit in the criminal activities or terrorist activities of one individual. How would British people feel about living under a law like that? How would American people feel about living under a law like that? That's not a law, is it? That's freedom to kill and rob people, isn't it? That is what that kind of a judgment is. It's just absolute freedom. Oh, somebody's committed a crime. Somebody's committed a terrorist action. Quick, go and kill all the family now, seize all the property, kill them. No, this is, as I say, the totally corrupt and hypocritical judgments that have been going on. And when it comes to them committing crimes against humanity, vulnerable, disempowered, innocent people, okay, well, the slightest whiff of suspicion warrants mass bombing and murder of people. That's just on a hint of suspicion. No actual evidence. But when it comes to people like Judge Kavanaugh and the Saudi elite, well, we can have all the evidence there in the world to show us that supports the understanding that these people are not only capable of doing what they were doing, that the witnesses are describing real events directly related to these groups or persons. Oh no, we can dismiss that. Sorry, no. We haven't got solid evidence. We haven't got fingerprints. We haven't got this. We haven't got that. We have to assume that they're innocent before we judge them guilty. Well, as I've explained in both cases in the Kavanaugh-Khashoggi video link underneath, is that everything works on a balance of probabilities when it comes to the kind of evidence as has been presented in terms of what happened in Israel in 2014 and their subsequent actions against Gaza. Then, you know, the two don't even add up to any degree whatsoever. Because if you're going to operate by a system of judgment, then that judgment applies equally to the people that have issued that judgment. Okay? It applies equally to those people. But according to the Israelis, every Palestinian is a potential terrorist, and especially the children, they're little snakes. And they can be murdered indiscriminately, even at their own borders. And I'm sick and tired of reading the comments people are making about, oh, how could they take the children into such a dangerous zone? You know, please remember that Gaza's about 3 miles wide. It is quite difficult to avoid the border fence, okay? And these people are so oppressed, they are living in a concentration camp. What have they got to lose? Really? What life is there for their children unless they have freedom? Okay? What, so children aren't going to go to those borders? It's all hands on deck, isn't it? Really, for the Palestinians. They're fighting for their very lives, their very rights to exist on their own lands. So you're talking about an extreme situation. And my heart goes out to the Palestinian people. It has been absolutely devastating to witness what has been going on for so long. And my heart also equally goes out to the Israeli people who do not support Zionism, who do not recognise Zionism as an element of Judaic faith, and who feel equally oppressed, and who are suffering directly as a result of the mass global judgments now against Jews in general, which I think is actually a very wrong approach to Zionism. You know, we need to understand that Jews themselves are as much a victim of Zionist actions as the Palestinians, though, well, when I say a victim, in terms of the negativity that gets aimed at Jews now, but obviously they're not as much a victim in terms of being bombed and shot and incarcerated. Though, you know, Israeli Jews that do speak out against Zionists in Israel, you know, they are heavily attacked and persecuted and imprisoned. So, you know, those people really are struggling, and very few people are standing by them in that struggle. There's lots and lots of people prepared to condemn Israel, but they're not so ready to give their full support to the people of Israel that are speaking out against all these atrocities as described by the BBC. So, you know, it is beholden upon Britain, especially British Parliament, and the American government and the people of America now to rise up and stand up in support of Palestine. Not rise up against Israel, rise up in support of Palestine, in support of their rights to be a true nation, to have their lands restored, their rights restored. Because this idea that a nation can exist as a series of military-controlled ghetto islands is absolutely ridiculous in the extreme. And how this world has tolerated it, I can't fathom it, apart from it's a criminal consciousness then. It's a criminal parliament ruling Britain. The BBC is a criminal news organisation, because how could you possibly support what has happened to Palestine, which is against the United Nations resolutions that granted a certain area to Israel and a certain area for Palestine. Very clear. So how is it that Palestine's been whittled away now to a series of ghetto islands surrounded by Israeli military checkpoints, that people cannot move from one part of Palestine, Palestinian part of Palestinian territory, to another part of Palestinian territory without having to go through a series of Israeli military checkpoints? How do we know that these 3 Israeli teenagers weren't actually captured by mercenaries who do not come from Palestine, but who actually wanted to give Israel even more excuse to bomb and attack the people of Gaza? And we cannot forget that that attack came just at the point where suddenly it's been discovered that Gaza, the sea off the coast of Gaza, is huge gas reserves. No, there's something very, very serious going on here, and we do have reasonable doubt, okay, that the situation as the BBC presenting in its unbiased way, we doubt your unbiased, because the very fact that you've chosen to present this as unbiased, traditionally, generally, that's the way the BBC have approached it. Oh, what we've got to remain unbiased. Okay, that itself, there's reasonable doubt that is actually unbiased. It's actually bias according to the evidence, because you are choosing to be unbiased between a criminal and a victim. You see, when there's evidence to support the crime, and there's evidence to support that the other party is a victim of crime. Because in no way can it be justified to be bombing and murdering innocent citizens, terrorising them on the suspicion related to those people about what's happened in Israel to 3 Israeli children. You know, they were teenagers, they were children. And as I say, my heart is sad for them as well, for their families. I think their families deserve a better form of justice, don't they? Their families deserve to know that the people who did that have been tracked down, that the evidence has been gathered, the forensics, whatever, and that these people that did that are brought to justice. But no, instead, what the families get is, oh, hey, we're going to give ourselves freedom now to go and terrorise the people of Gaza and stir up military hostility and engage in all-out warfare against the people of Gaza. There you go, people. That's justice. Your children were killed. Look, we've given you how many gallons of Palestinian blood now. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. How is that compensation for those families that have lost their teenagers? Why are those people living in such a climate of hostility that can even happen to their children? Why is this Zionist government maintaining such a level of hostility that the people on both sides are living under a constant terror threat? No, I'm sorry, you're unbiased reporting, BBC. Sorry, we've had enough of it. It's not unbiased, it's actually bias. Okay? You are actually biased. So, there you go. Do check the video links below that I've shared here, and also one from Thom Hartman And, you know, I really respect Thom Hartman, and I do advise people to subscribe to his channel and listen to, he gives regular broadcasts, and, you know, do keep yourself, press on the bell here, you know, that's underneath the links. If you subscribe, usually a little bell comes up. If you press on that, you will be notified as to when this person has uploaded a new video. And Thom Hartman is definitely one person that you need to keep full on top of, and make sure that you do that you do listen to what he has to say regularly, because he's a man of sense and sanity and compassion, and this world really needs that at the moment, because we are being governed by absolute idiots. So thank you for taking time to listen. Stand up for your rights, have courage, take strength. You know, check the link that I provided under the Kavanaugh-Khashoggi video, and check that out. You know, please, please, these are the times for us to get strong. So rise up, stand up for your human rights, people. God bless, love and strength to all.